Once you get the cover off, you can look for corresponding numbers, usually at the top or the bottom ends of the fuse holders. But you're going to need to get a light because they're kind of hard to read. So coming across the bottom here, I'm seeing 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So number 14 is this one right here. And sure enough, it's one of those old original aluminum type fuses that I detest because of the problem of dissimilar metal corrosion. If you look right here, I can see corrosion coming out of the tip here, and this fuse is kind of warped. Sometimes that means it has been overheated. Sometimes when they overheat, the corrosion will increase on the tips. So I'm going to pull this fuse out. In fact, I'm looking at over half of these are the old aluminum type fuses. There's a couple of the copper brass alloy that have been replaced, this one right here in particular. But I'm going to pull out my fuse kit and my special tool, and while I'm playing around with number 14 here, I'm just going to replace all these fuses. This is one of the best electrical preventative measures you can do on these older Mercedes-Benz. When you're replacing your fuses in your old fuse box, you'll have 3 colors of fuses to deal with. You'll have white, red, and blue. You do not want to go by what is in the fuse box. Somebody could have installed the incorrect fuse in the past, so don't just copy the pattern that you see here. I'm going to look at this fuse guide here, and if you look along this side, you'll see little indicators like the round circle that's open is red, the little square box is a white fuse, and then the solid circle is a blue fuse. So only one blue fuse in this W116. That's number 6 for the cigar lighter and the heated rear window. So the heated rear window pulls a lot of amps, and that's why they're using a 25 amp blue fuse. The red fuses are 16 amps, and the white fuses are, like number 14 is a white fuse. So I'm going to start pulling the fuses now. You can see I've already got all my new fuses here. Here's the tool I developed to remove and replace the fuses. If you've ever done this before, you know how frustrating it is. So having this tool makes the job go a lot easier. I've also got a brass brush here. You want to use brass. You don't want to scratch the holders, but you do want to clean off any little residue of corrosion that's left once I pull the fuses out. So let me show you now how this little tool works. I'm going to start out and just remove number 14 so we can get a closer look at it. I'll just grab a hold of it here like this. I just have to pull back on it and lift it out. And sure enough, I can see the corrosion there on this end. In fact, if I pull this one out, this is one that's been sitting in the car as a backup. That's what these holes are for up here, is having spares inside the fuse box. The tips are corroded. They've lost their sheen. So just using aluminum fuses in my book is an absolute no-no. You can see where this is kind of warped. You have to look very closely. Sometimes these will crack, and you won't see the crack until you remove it from the holder, and then you'll have the end fall off. So all these fuses are going to get replaced. I'm just going to go right down the line here. I can check the fuse schedule on the fuse box lid, and if these are correct, you know, I can replace one at a time. But what I found, it's a little easier, just pull them all out and then go ahead and use that brass brush. I'm going to leave that one in here, right here. Look how that's in there, but it isn't seated properly. So whoever put this one in, I'm going to move this into place, make sure it's seated. What I do when I put these fuses in, I put them in and then I roll them back and forth like that. That seats the tip, and it also makes certain that the ends have gone into those 2 little holes. So I'm going to leave that red one in place because it's fairly new. And then we'll just go ahead and pull these out. Now, trying to get these out by hand, you'll have them flying all over the place, sometimes down in the engine compartment. So you can see how handy it is to use this tool to get all the fuses out quickly and not have them fly off in behind the brake booster, or worse yet, down inside the engine compartment. So there you have it. My special tool in fast action here. We got one more down here. Okay, now I'll take the brush and I'm just going to go ahead and clean. You don't need much. I mean, they're actually pretty clean, so I'm not going to have to do a lot of brushing. These two down here were number 14 and 16 were a little, and notice the holder there is a little bent too on number 14, so I'll straighten that out. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think I'm ready to install the new fuses now. So I've set the lid out here to look at the numbering sequence, and it goes, 1 through 16. If you look at the fuse box, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I think I'll just do the same sequence as I go down and look at the codes right next to these numbers. Number 1 is a square, that's an 8 amp white fuse. Number 2 is a red 16 amp fuse, and so on. Installing the new fuses with this tool is a one-hand operation. I'm going to just set the fuse in like this. I'm going to put the head of the tool up towards the top of the fuse. You're going to see why in a second. I'm going to reach down in here and I'm just going to tip this in and get the back in the hole like this, and then push it back and then let it go. Then I'll just take my hand and rotate it a couple times. That helps to seat it in. Number 2 is a red one, so we'll get the red one ready to go. Set that one in. I'll bring my finger in and just rotate it and bring it right up so the fuse itself is sticking straight up so you can see it. Okay, now I'm going to come across and finish this. You'll have to admit that now the fuse box looks pretty nice. The 116 has places for 6 spares. Not all fuse boxes have this, but I'm going to take and put 3 white ones in here. So these will be nice and handy should you ever have a problem out on the road with the fuse blowing. And I'll just put 1 blue one here and a couple red ones. Now we have different size fuse kits on my website for the different chassis because every chassis is a little bit different on the number of fuses it takes, but we give you enough fuses so you'll have extras. And you don't need to keep these old ones, okay? Don't keep these in your glove box for spares. Just throw them away, get rid of them, because you'll have enough in the kit to have a few spares in the fuse box if there's space for them, and then put the rest of them in your glove box.